In science, it often happens that scientists say, you know, that's a really good argument. My position is mistaken. And then they actually change their minds, and you never hear that old view from them again. They really do it. It doesn't happen as often as it should, because scientists are human and change is sometimes painful. But it happens every day. I cannot recall the last time something like that happened in politics or religion. The quote is from Carl Sagan. In 1968, we were clearing out the house of my grandparents in Llangollen, mid Wales. Not a Catholic church for miles, but there was a library. It was this time of year, because it was the summer holidays, and I wandered into that library and I picked up a book and I read through it, and it was the 14th of August 1968, therefore the vigil of this day, and I had no idea of its significance, that I picked up in that volume the story of what? Fatima. It was around the hour of Vespers, although I didn't know it, but that day that I put down the book and in prayer said something to this effect to the Lord: if that is true, Our Lady exists and she has to be part of the scene. That is not the case in my setup. I must stop going to this incomplete worship. Eventually, as a result of that, I wandered, when we got back home, to the nearest Catholic church, but not straight away. I first went to my minister. It was at the end of a prayer meeting, the Thursday one, and I said to him I had something to say to him. So we sat in his car. I said, I am thinking of becoming, and I used the Catholic word in Welsh for Catholic. It's used by Catholics and Protestants without anything pejoratory, and it was this: a pabydd, translate if you wish, a papist. And you know his reaction. His eyes became as wide as saucers, and he said in Welsh, a bit? A what? I said again, pabydd. He made me promise, because he knew, and in fact he said so, it would pass. The appeal would pass. To wait. So I did. Until Christmas. Again, I went up to him and said what I said in the summer, I still mean it. He took me back into the car. Are you aware of the implications of all this? And then he churned out the classic arguments. What he didn't realize was I had seen something that he hadn't seen, and there was no going back. Already the ground had been prepared by another part of that book on Eucharistic miracles. And coming to the end of that section, I had already said, I can never again receive this invalid communion. Then, when it came to this article here, it answered all the other problems. Why? If our Lord did favour his Blessed Mother in this way, while we were trying to honour him and excluding a part of his will, it cannot be pleasing to that same Lord. Some time later, I came across another element. It was this. It was linked also with that church I dropped into after reading all this. It was what? The fact that what was becoming to me clear as the only true church also had other evidence that that was the case. E.g., when it came to that nearest church, what did I find? Not one married person doing his own thing, but a community of 6 or 7 monks who had a whole arsenal of missiles, a whole system of prayer and, if you like, salvation of souls that I knew nothing about. Starting very early in the morning, they were already in church, and there were celebrations upon celebrations, whereas our church was closed all week. One day, sometime later, this good monk, as round as a ball, came up to me and said, "You spend a long time in church." So he took me under his wing. Eventually, they taught me what the Catholic faith was all about, but there was a hiccup. It was this. What about the other churches which say the same thing? Now remember, my best friend was a High Anglican, and apparently there's no difference, apparently. Also, there was in Cardiff the Eastern Orthodox Church, and that could not be cast aside either, lightly. All that had to be sorted out by a good Benedictine, who calmly and serenely, point by point, showed historically that it could not but be one. Didn't finish there. One session of instruction started with this. "Now, I've been talking to Don Kelly. Now, we think it's a good idea. We've got to demolish it." So they sent me up to Amplifiers. Of course, we can pay for it. There's no problem. And what did I find there? Wow! History in bricks, sound and goodness. 120 monks in orbit, and a force of history unbroken, because it's the venerable English congregation which had martyrs upon martyrs and so on, carried on in exile and came back with all the power of the Middle Ages behind them. So much so that when the head of that monastery a little later became bishop and cardinal, who was there waiting to welcome him back and his brethren to sing Vespers in Thanksgiving in Westminster Abbey, but that same monk who was teaching me because he had been organist of Ampleforth. And what did he say? Back again. It was theirs. Calm, serene possession of the truth without ever raising one's voice. And sanctity. You know who was there in the sanctuary of the Abbey in Ampleforth? It was the Abbey of St. Lawrence, and there was a big chunk of your man there right next to the choir. You know how he died? As happy as Larry. Grilled alive. Slowly but surely. You can turn me over now. I'm done on this side. That was the sanctuary which contained, if you like, the early church as well. The same straight line. I jump. coming into the church, in fact in that same abbey, in the chapel of St. David in the crypt at Ampleforth in 1971, it was the actual date, on Easter Saturday, something else started to happen. Going places. Now, do you know that in Wales we have the only place that has a straight line as regards the unstoppable flow of miracles? They could never, ever stop the miracles at St. Winifred's Well. You know the story, don't you? This prince wanted to marry her, and she wanted to be a virgin. So her head was chopped off, and this well came up. And it's still to this day, and always has, even in penal times, produced miracles. And you know the proof? You'll find graffiti there with the dates in the high period of persecution. They could not stop people. And do you know what they said? The Protestants among themselves, who always want healing, would go there and would come away and would say this: "Oh, what wonderful water!" And it's still going on to this day. And it doesn't stop there. Soon I found there was a whole armour of things to be fired at our Protestant brethren, because heaven was on side. And do you know why? You will find miracles of healing and answer to prayer amongst all Christians who are sincere. But what will you not find? One single miracle to underline a dogmatic point. That was powerful. Heaven was speaking a Catholic language. I just jumped to recent times. This came to me not long ago. The same lady crowned with the sun that on that day hit me between the eyes in her most gentle and motherly fashion is still around, and this walked into my hermitage not that long ago. Two friends had been to Medjugorje, and on the 6th of October, this was in Brno as it happens, they'd taken this photograph of the cross that you all know, Krzyżowac, which has, of course, a relic of the true cross inside. You know that, don't you? And there they took this picture. Now you can't see it from here, but I'll leave it here for you to see afterwards. What you'll see apparently is a group of people praying or whatever. But look again at what's going on here. You've got your ordinary people around there, pilgrims who have conquered it barefoot. And you've got two others under the cross. One is Our Lady, and the other, I'm not sure whether it's St. Joseph or St. John at the foot of the cross, but they're certainly not the pilgrims. They've come from another sphere. Do you see how important this kind of thing is? It's the same serene possession of the truth. We're used to holy things happening, and you know, this hit the great intellectual Newman. I just finished with this. He had it all up there. He had it all worked out. The theory of the branch, that the Anglican Communion was a branch of the true church. And one day he walked into a Catholic church, which in those days was a hut. What did he find? He found something he'd never seen at the dignity of the Anglican altars. Simple people kissing statues, at home with heaven. And you know the expression he used? A holy familiarity with heaven. That is what I find too in Ireland, even in the travelling community. It's there still, the serene possession of the truth. And you know what happened one day when they got to demolish some yokel church in Latin America with some Pentecostal sect? They were trying to stop it all, and you know what they said in reaction? Because this was going on. You know, your priest there, your parish priest, he has a child. The reaction was, yes, I'm the godfather. And if it's so awful with the true church, what is it like with yours? My dear friends, there's no need ever to be worried about the truth. Heaven is on our side. Rest on the power that made you.